2025 real estate market predictions. We're talking 3 primary indicators: rate predictions, price predictions, and transaction or home sale predictions. Now, once we talk about those, we're going to discuss them in the context of what that means for the Knoxville and East Tennessee area. And furthermore, we're going to drill down to what that means for buyers and sellers. So let's dive in and get going. Hey, what's up? It's me, Haley Jones, and I'm super excited to talk with you about these predictions. I am a Knoxville native, left for a while and came back in 2012, so know the area pretty well, and I help people buy and sell homes in the Knoxville area and East Tennessee every day. So let's talk about what these predictions mean for us and the work we do together in the 2025 year. So number one, this is something that people always want to know about, is mortgage rates. So coming into 2024, the prediction was that we would be in the 5s, we would see rates in the 5s, and we would see home sales in the 5 millions. And both of those predictions were wrong. So I just want to tell you that nobody has a crystal ball. This is what we think based on the current information we have. So according to Fannie Mae, the Mortgage Brokers Association, and Wells Fargo, the average of all of their predictions for 2025 says 6.3%. So all of them predict in the 6s, you can see from that chart, but nobody is saying in the 5s, the high 5s. I've heard a couple people say the high 5s. Fannie Mae is not saying that. Mortgage Bankers Association is not saying that. Wells Fargo is not saying that. So we can think probably in 2025 we're going to see rates in the 6s. If we dip below 6.2%, there is a million plus homeowners nationally that could be back in the market from an affordability standpoint. So just keeping that in mind. Now, when it comes to the Knoxville area, Knoxville for 2025 has been named as one of 10 places, 10 hotspots of a real estate market predicted for 2025. And part of that is because the mortgage originations from 2019 to 2023, basically lower percentage of those from that time period that have mortgage originations below 6%. So while we're thinking that rates are going to come down, I just still want to look at the past picture of what's happening with rates in the Knoxville area. 2019 to 2023, what we see is that we have a lower percentage of homeowners that are locked in under 6% than the average nationally, which would indicate that we have people that are more likely to sell. So as a buyer and a seller here, sellers, it might feel like you are completely locked into your current mortgage rate, but actually our percentage here is less than the national average, which means on the sell side, you might have a little more competition than what other people might have nationally. On the buy side, this means that you might see more inventory coming into the 2025 market. So, when you're thinking as a seller, should I sell or not? Part of this depends on what's your rate now. What's your payment going to be? Are you trying to upgrade or downgrade? I have a number of sellers who they came here in 2019, their home price almost doubled, and then they've ended up downgrading. Maybe their kids are out of school now. They're moving to a different area of Knoxville because for whatever reason, life changes, and they have a ton of equity. And they're going to have a lower payment just because they're buying in a much lower price category. Now, if you're thinking, okay, we're going to upgrade, then this might be a little bit tougher of a challenge as a seller because you're going to be selling to buy. Now, the other thing to think about that I have seen some of my clients do is they did get such a great interest rate that their home, they bought at a great price, their mortgage is super low, and their home is a great candidate for a rental property. So they are now purchasing a second home and making that first home essentially an investment long-term that they never actually meant to keep and hold it as a rental property, but it makes sense for their mortgage rate. So you kind of want to look at your goals, your picture, and you may have no interest in doing that, but I've had several sellers do that where it just makes more sense not to sell. Instead, they just buy, they upgrade. Or not even upgrade. Maybe they go to a comparable house in a different area, or it just depends on everybody's situation. And then as a buyer, when we talk about rates, obviously this is the huge thing that is going to tell you what is your monthly payment. So when you're looking at rates, first of all, you want to make sure that you talk with more than one lender. You want to know what their rates are, what their costs are, get the whole picture. You also want to talk with lenders about refinancing options, what does that look like down the road, what's the cost to you, all of those things. So you want to have all those kind of questions asked when you're talking about rates, because the rates do matter. And yeah, a lot of people, they use the phrase, date the rate, marry the house, or whatever they say. Basically, the rate can change and you can buy that rate down, you can refinance. So one of your ways, when I say buy the rate down, something that you can do in that home buying process that your lender and real estate agent help you with, is to negotiate a rate buy down. So you might ask for closing costs, or you might, instead of ask for closing costs, ask for cash towards a buy down. So those are things to consider when you are thinking, okay, these rates are high, I don't want to pay this much in my mortgage. There are some options around that. So we will see in 2025 what happens. Again, to sum this all up, the prediction is somewhere in the sixes, hopefully low sixes. I will say that the Knoxville area has a slightly higher in 23 mortgage rate than the national one. Nationally, 2023 was at 7%. Knox was at 7.1%, so maybe not as competitive in the area when it comes to rates. But that being said, certainly this is a competitive market. Again, Knoxville being named as one of the top hot spots for 2025 means we're going to continue to see a strong market regardless of what's happening with the rates. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next indicator. So the next indicator is about home price forecasts. Now, there are, of 16 sources, 15 of them all say we are going to see price appreciation. One of them, which is Moody's Analytics, says we're going to see depreciation of 0.4%. Everyone else ranges from 0.6, Fannie Mae says 0.6 appreciation, all the way to 5.5 home price appreciation, according to the AEI Housing Center. Now, the average of all these 16 indicators says a 3% home price appreciation. I've also seen a 2% indicator. I've not seen a prediction that home prices are going to go down. So we can think nationally, we're going to see home price appreciation 2 to 3%-ish, roughly, right? Now, let's talk about that in the context of Knoxville and East Tennessee. So historically, if we look at quarter 3 of 2019 to quarter 3 of 2024, what we have seen is home price appreciation of 90.9%. The national average is 56.2%. So national average at 56.2%, and Knoxville's at 90.9%. And this is because we have a large number of people that are moving here. And of the people that are moving here, 50% of those people are purchasing a home. So that's going to drive prices up, because certainly if we have people moving in here, that is putting a push on demand, making demand go higher. And our supply has been low. We are now back at our pre-COVID number of supply of homes. However, we still have people moving in. We have not seen prices go down. So I do not anticipate that there's going to be price appreciation in the Knoxville or East Tennessee area, period, point blank. And I would also anticipate that it's probably going to be higher than this 3% prediction. However, we don't know that. So, I mean, considering that prices have nearly doubled since pre-COVID, since quarter 3, 2019, it doesn't make sense to me that we're going to see a sudden throttle back and price increasing. Again, we still have people moving here. We still have a strong demand for the area. And again, given that Knoxville was named a hotspot for 2025, given that the Emerging Trends report from the Urban Land Institute names Knoxville as a boutique market, as a place that people want to be, that has a strong economic foundation, where we've seen good job growth comparatively from 2019 to 2023. When we compare it to the national average of 5%, Knoxville's at 8%. So we have a lot of things going for us that indicate that we're not going to see prices come down. Okay, so when we talk about sellers, if you're a seller thinking about selling your home in the Knoxville and East Tennessee area, and we talk about pricing, you certainly, as always, no matter what's happening with home prices, whether or not they're going up or going down, you want to be strategic about your price. And you also want to be strategic about what your goal is. We always say you want to get the most money in the best terms in the fastest amount of time. Okay, that's great, but you want to look at, okay, what's most important to you? Time, your net, ease. So some of these levers we have to change based on what your goal is. So if your goal is to get the most amount of money, then you want to make your home the most desirable by comparison of things that compare to it. So think about that. You're like, my goal is to get the most amount of money. Well, how can you set your house apart? because most likely what we're seeing is that we're seeing more inventory come on the market. If rates go down, you're gonna have a lot more competition. Now, again, Knoxville inventory wise, we're still pretty much at a seller's market, around a 2-month of inventory amount at the time of this video. So yeah, you're in a seller's market still, but you can't just overprice it. It's gonna sit there. If it sits there, buyers start to worry what's going on. That's a normal reaction from a buyer. So as a seller, if rates come down, you're gonna be able to be a little less, particular about how you set your home apart to the competition. But that being said, don't outprice yourself. It still needs to appraise. It still needs to make sense. And certainly, if things get back to that crazy competition that we saw in 2022, where people were doing appraisal waivers and, that kind of situation, then that's different, right? But overall, you don't want to be overpricing your home. You want it to be competitively priced when you list it on the market. That's going to really help you to be successful in that sell overall. And then currently, you may be seeing buyers right now asking for buy downs. If we don't see rates come down, you're gonna see buyers that are, instead of asking necessarily for closing costs, they might be asking for a rate buy down. So this could be another thing that could make you more competitive if that's something that you might offer, or say like you're, whatever. So that's something to consider or think or be aware you might see on offers as buyers are looking at your home. From a buyer standpoint, if we look at pricing, essentially pricing, it is what it is. Knoxville pricing, we're most likely not going to be seeing come down. We're not seeing it come down nationally per the prediction for 2025. And again, we have a great influx of people moving here, and we have less people locked in, as mentioned earlier, compared to the national amount. So we have a lot of movement going on in the market, and depending on what happens with rates, if we see rates come down, you're going to be in competition with a lot of other buyers. And even now, again, it's still a strong seller's market. So as a buyer, at the minimum, when you're looking to purchase a home in 2025, you want to have your pre-approval letter. You want to have already talked with a lender. You want to have talked about what your mortgage looks like. You want to know what your price point is. And not necessarily am I saying you're going to get pre-approved for $50 billion and maybe that's what you want to spend. No, you want to know, okay, I got pre-approved for this amount. What's my mortgage going to be based on that amount? Am I okay with that? Does that make sense for me? And based on that mortgage amount, what actually price point do I want to be at? Because yeah, there is that total number, and then there's your monthly cost, right? So just things to be thinking about, and things, you can ask for rate buy downs, you can ask for closing costs, so there's things and leverage you can pull to make your purchase in 2025 successful. And certainly if rates come down, I just want to reiterate this point. If rates come down, it's going to be excellent for sellers in the Knoxville area, and it's going to make competition higher for buyers in the Knoxville area. Sellers are going to likely see more than one offer, which we even have now still at the time of this video. So, which we're in very, very late. We're in December 2024 at the time I'm making this. So even now we have homes that are seeing multiple offers. It is way less common, and it's specific to certain areas and types of houses. However, it does still happen. So the fact it's still happening even now in this market when rates are perceived to be high, that indicates that yeah, if rates come down, it's going to be aggressive. It's going to be a lot of competition. So, buyers, you want to have your ducks in a row. You want to have your ducks in a row in general. Certainly now with rates higher, you want to be more aware of what's going on with your mortgage and what you're going to be paying. Doesn't make sense for you. But when and if rates come down, just know that you're going to need to be decisive about your decision, and then also prepared to, be competitive. All right. Finally, the third indicator is about total home sales. So I mentioned at the beginning of this video that going into 2024, the prediction was rates would be in the 5s and home sales would be in the 5 million plus. So for context, just so you can get an idea of, these are national numbers. Total home sales for 2019 were 6 million. Total home sales in 2020, 6.5 million. Total home sales in 2020, 6.9. Total home sales in 2022, 5.7. Total home sales in 2023, 4.8. 4.6 in 2024. So we have not hit that 5 range. We're just below that. So, or that's what we're on pace to close in 2024, 4.6. So certainly the market is down when it comes to overall home sales. The prediction nationally is that we're going to see 5.1 million. So we're going to be at that 5 range, higher than 23 and 24, slightly lower than what happened and what we saw in 2022. Now, a big piece of this, in my opinion, is going to be based on what happens with rates. Because rates come down, that allows more people to be able to afford and buy and transact in the market. So if we see rates come down, we're going to see more people entering the market. We're going to see more buyers coming in. And then also if rates come down, that's going to allow sellers to feel less locked into their current rate. Because, you know, if you have a rate at 2.7 and then you're looking at rates of 7, it feels like, what? No. So as rates are perceived more tolerable and more acceptable, we will see more people transacting both on the buy and sell side, which means we'll see the number of home sales overall increase. So for Knoxville, you know, I've already mentioned those 2 reports. Number 1 is that National Association of Realtors 2025 hotspot markets, and Knoxville is one of those because we have people moving in. 50% of those people moving in are buying homes. We also have a less than average amount than the national average of sellers locked in at that 6% mortgage origination rate, you know, and we have some pricing stuff that's favorable comparatively to the national average. So that being said, we have seen prices increase incredibly, but that hasn't seemed to throttle our home sales too significantly. So we can anticipate that based on that 2025, you know, hotspot report and the fact that, you know, according to Urban Land Institute, the Knoxville area and East Tennessee, we provide a boutique market. We have a thriving downtown, a downtown that continues to grow. We have investment coming here. We have significant and positive job growth. We have, you know, strong outdoor amenities, including the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We've got great things going. So for 2025, yeah, nationally, the prediction is home sales are going to be up. Based on these 2 reports, it would also indicate that we're going to see the number of home sales increase in the Knoxville area as well. So TBD, you know, again, I don't have a crystal ball, but based on those reports, it seems favorable that we're going to have a strong and thriving market in the 2025 year. So for sellers, again, kind of repeating myself at this point, you know, at the current time, where we're seeing those rates are higher, we're seeing buyers are a little bit more fickle. We're seeing not as many offers on a home. So depending on what happens with rates, obviously this is all going to change. But, you know, as a seller, you want to make sure you're working with somebody that's informed about the market, that's informed about what's going on in your area, in your neighborhood, what's the movement, what price points make sense, what are buyers doing, you know, should you anticipate you might have to go through several counters before you get to a decision. And just because someone makes an offer that you're not necessarily in love with, you can counter that offer. We're not in that 2022, 2021 craziness where people just were like, here's my family story and please give me your house. We're not in that market right now. So just bear that in mind. Now, if we see rates come down, we might be back to that market. But again, no matter what you're doing, your goal is to make your home the most desirable option for buyers in a given price point. So if your price point is at $430, then you might catch buyers up to that $450 mark, and you're gonna catch buyers as low as maybe a $390, maybe that's their ideal, they've got some room. So you wanna say, how does my house currently compare to homes within that range? Because that's gonna let you know, ooh, I need to fix this, or homes in that range look a certain way, or these homes that are doing this are moving more quickly. So, you know, and your agent can help you look at those things to make you the most competitive as a seller. And then on the buy side, again, this is all about rates. Depending on what the rates are, that's going to determine your negotiability and what you're able to ask for or not when it comes to concessions from sellers. So lots of moving parts. Positive predictions. It's positive that we think rates are coming into the low 6s. It's a positive thing that, I mean, maybe you're like, price appreciation isn't great, but you know, specifically for the Knoxville area, this indicates a strong market. And the fact that people moving here are buying homes is great for the area. So those are great things. And you know, we'll see. 2025 TBD. I hope this has been helpful. As always, I'm Haley Jones. However I can help you, please do not hesitate to call or shoot me a text message or shoot me an email. always work. And don't forget to subscribe. I have so much more to share with you about the Knoxville and East Tennessee area, and I will see you on the next video.